The rain came down hard that November night, turning the Portland streets into rivers of cold, dirty water. Lily pulled her thin jacket tighter around her body, but it didn't help much. She'd been living on the streets for almost 9 months now, and she still wasn't used to nights like this. The kind of nights that made your bones ache and your teeth chatter no matter how many layers you wore. She was 19 years old, but most days she felt about 40. Life had a way of aging you fast when you didn't have a home to go back to, when you had to think about where your next meal would come from, or whether someone might steal your backpack while you slept. Lily made her way down the alley behind the medical clinic on 5th Street. It was past midnight and the businesses were all closed. This was her routine now. Wait until everyone went home, then check the dumpsters. You'd be surprised what people threw away. Sometimes she'd find perfectly good food still wrapped up. Sometimes clothes that just needed a wash. Once, she'd even found a sleeping bag that changed her life for about 3 weeks, until someone stole it while she was using the bathroom at a gas station. Tonight, though, the dumpster behind the clinic was pretty empty. Just medical waste in sealed bags that she knew better than to touch, and some cardboard boxes broken down flat. She was about to move on to the next spot when she heard it. A crying sound. Soft and weak, but definitely there. Lily froze. She'd heard a lot of strange things in her months on the street. Cats fighting, people yelling, car alarms going off. But this sound was different. It made something twist in her chest. The sound came again. It was coming from behind a stack of cardboard, tucked in the corner where the dumpster met the brick wall of the building. Her heart started pounding as she moved closer. Part of her brain was screaming at her to walk away. Nothing good ever came from getting involved in other people's business. She'd learned that the hard way. But her feet kept moving forward anyway. She pushed the cardboard aside, and that's when she saw it. A bundle of blankets, light blue and white, wadded up like someone had been in a hurry, and that crying sound was coming from inside. Lily's hands shook as she reached down and carefully pulled back the top layer of blanket. What she saw made her gasp out loud. It was a baby. A tiny, tiny baby with a pale little face and eyes squeezed shut. The infant was barely moving, just making these weak little sounds that broke Lily's heart into pieces. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, who would do this?" She looked around frantically, like maybe the mother would be standing there with some explanation. But the alley was empty except for her and this abandoned child. The rain kept falling. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm started wailing. Lily had never held a baby before. She didn't have younger siblings, and she'd been in the foster system since she was 12. Nobody trusted foster kids with babies, but she didn't think about any of that now. She just scooped the bundle up into her arms, blankets and all, and held it close to her chest. The baby was so cold. Too cold. That scared her more than anything. She quickly unzipped her jacket and tucked the baby inside against her shirt, then zipped it back up as much as she could. Her own body heat would have to be enough. The infant weighed almost nothing. It felt fragile, like it might break if she held it wrong. "It's okay," she heard herself saying, even though she had no idea if anything was okay. "It's okay, I've got you now. You're safe, but safe where?" That was the question. Lily's home was an abandoned warehouse about 6 blocks away. She'd found a way to get in through a broken window in the back, and she'd set up a little space for herself on the 2nd floor. It wasn't much. Just some blankets she'd collected, a flashlight, and a few garbage bags full of her stuff. But it was dry, and people left her alone there. She started walking fast, hunched over to protect the baby from the rain. Her mind was racing in 1,000 different directions. She should take the baby to a hospital. That's what a normal person would do. But Lily wasn't a normal person with a normal life. She was homeless. She was nobody. What if they thought she'd stolen the baby? What if they called the police? She'd run away from her last foster home because the father kept coming into her room at night. When she tried to tell her social worker, nobody believed her. They said she was making up stories for attention. They said she was troubled. That word followed her everywhere. Troubled. Like she was the problem, not the people who were supposed to take care of her. So no, she couldn't go to the hospital. Not yet. She needed to think. By the time she reached the warehouse, she was soaking wet and shivering. She climbed through the window carefully, protecting the baby with her body, and made her way up the stairs to her spot. Once there, she laid out her driest blanket and gently placed the baby down. In the beam of her flashlight, she could see the infant better now. The baby's skin was pale, almost white. Its little chest was moving up and down, but the breath seemed shallow. The eyes stayed closed. Lily realized she didn't even know if it was a boy or a girl. She carefully unwrapped the blankets and found the baby was wearing a simple white onesie. A girl, she decided, though she wasn't entirely sure. The diaper was dry, which seemed strange. Wouldn't a baby have needed a change by now? She wrapped the infant back up in the driest blankets she had, including her favorite one with the faded flower pattern. Then she just sat there watching the tiny chest rise and fall, feeling completely helpless. What was she supposed to do? She was 19 years old and homeless. She could barely take care of herself. How was she supposed to take care of a baby? But even as these thoughts ran through her head, another feeling was growing in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. It was like purpose. Like maybe she'd found this baby for a reason. Like maybe saving this little life could somehow make up for how messed up her own life had become. "I'm going to take care of you," she whispered to the sleeping infant. "I don't know how, but I'm going to figure it out. I promise." The rain drummed on the warehouse roof. The wind howled through the broken windows, and Lily sat there in the dark, watching over a baby she'd found in a dumpster, trying to figure out how to keep a promise she had no idea how to keep. She didn't sleep at all that night. Every few minutes, she'd check to make sure the baby was still breathing. She'd adjust the blankets, trying to keep the infant warm. She'd talk softly, saying anything that came into her head, because she'd heard somewhere that babies needed to hear voices. As the first light of dawn started creeping through the warehouse windows, Lily knew one thing for certain. Her life had just changed completely. She'd been surviving on her own for months, looking out for nobody but herself. But now she had someone depending on her, someone who needed her. She just hoped she was strong enough to not let this baby down the way every adult in her life had let her down. The infant stirred slightly, making a small sound. Lily reached out and gently touched the baby's cheek with one finger. "We're going to be okay," she said, trying to convince herself as much as the baby. "Both of us. We're going to be okay." She had no idea how wrong she was about everything. When morning came, Lily knew she needed supplies. The baby still hadn't woken up properly, and that worried her more than anything. Shouldn't babies cry more? She didn't know much about infants, but she was pretty sure they were supposed to be noisy. She tucked the baby carefully into her sleeping area, surrounded by blankets to keep her warm and safe. Then she headed out into the cold morning air, her mind focused on one thing. This baby needed formula, diapers, bottles, all the things Lily had no money to buy. The corner store 3 blocks away was her target. She'd never stolen anything major before, just small stuff when she was desperate. A sandwich here, a bottle of water there, but this was different. This wasn't about her anymore. She waited until the store got busy with the morning rush. People getting coffee before work, students grabbing breakfast. When the clerk was distracted, Lily moved fast. Formula containers went into her backpack. A pack of bottles. Newborn diapers. She grabbed some baby wipes too. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Getting out was the hard part. She forced herself to walk normally, not too fast, not too slow. The clerk didn't even look up as she pushed through the door. Once outside, she started breathing again. Back at the warehouse, she unwrapped the formula and read the instructions on the side of the container. Mix powder with water, heat to body temperature. Simple enough, except she had no way to heat anything. She'd have to make do with room temperature. But when she tried to feed the baby, nothing went right. The infant's lips barely moved when Lily pressed the bottle nipple against them. The baby didn't seem to know what to do with it. Lily tried for almost 20 minutes, getting more frustrated and scared with each passing second. "Come on, sweetie," she pleaded. "You have to eat, please." A tiny bit of formula dribbled into the baby's mouth, but most of it just ran down the side of her face. The infant didn't swallow, didn't react, just lay there with eyes closed, breathing those same shallow breaths. Lily set the bottle down and picked up the baby, holding her against her shoulder like she'd seen people do. Maybe burping would help, but the baby's body felt strange in her arms. Stiff somehow, not like she'd expected a baby to feel. She laid the infant back down and really looked at her for the first time in daylight. The skin was so pale it was almost translucent. But there was something else too, something about the texture of the skin that didn't seem quite right, and the baby's fingers, when Lily touched them gently, felt almost hard. "Maybe she's just really cold," Lily said out loud, talking to herself because the silence was making her crazy. Maybe she just needs to warm up. She spent the whole day trying, wrapping the baby in more blankets, holding her close, talking to her constantly, but nothing changed. The infant never opened her eyes, never cried properly, never moved except for that slight rise and fall of the chest. By afternoon, Lily was starting to panic. She knew she needed help, but who could she ask? She'd been avoiding the other homeless people in the area. Some of them were okay, but some were dangerous. She'd learned to keep her head down and stay invisible. But there was one person who'd been kind to her, an older man named Terry who usually set up his cardboard shelter near the library. He was a veteran, he'd told her once. He'd been living on the streets for 5 years after his life fell apart. But he still had kindness in his eyes, still looked out for people when he could. Lily made a decision. As the sun started to set, she carefully wrapped up the baby and headed toward the library. She found Terry right where she expected, sitting against the library wall with a cup of coffee someone had probably given him. He looked up when she approached, and his weathered face broke into a smile. "Hey there, kid. Haven't seen you in a few days. Thought maybe you'd found a shelter or something." Lily shook her head. Then before she could change her mind, she pulled back the blanket to show him the baby. Terry's smile disappeared. He set down his coffee and leaned forward, his eyes going wide. "Where did you get that?" he asked, his voice suddenly serious. "I found her," Lily said quickly. "Last night behind the clinic. Someone just left her there in the rain. I couldn't just leave her, Terry. I couldn't." Terry didn't say anything for a long moment. He just stared at the baby with an expression Lily couldn't read. "Can you hold her for a second?" Lily asked. "I've been carrying her all day and my arms are so tired. Maybe you can tell me what I'm doing wrong." "She won't eat. She barely moves. I'm so scared something's really wrong with her." Terry hesitated, then held out his arms. Lily carefully transferred the baby to him, relieved to have someone else help even for just a minute. But what happened next confused her. Terry held the baby for maybe 10 seconds, then his face went pale. He looked at Lily, then back at the baby, then at Lily again. "Kid," he said slowly, "we need to talk." Something about his tone made Lily's stomach drop. What's wrong? Is she dying? We need to get her to a hospital, right?" Terry shook his head. He gently pressed on the baby's stomach, then carefully felt along the back of the head. His jaw was clenched tight like he was trying to figure out how to say something difficult. "Lily," he said finally, "this isn't a real baby." The words didn't make sense. Lily stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "Of course it's real. I found her. She's breathing. Look, you can see her breathing. Come here," Terry said. "I need to show you something." He laid the baby down on his sleeping bag and motioned for Lily to sit next to him. Then very carefully he pressed on the infant's stomach. "Feel that?" he asked. "Those aren't organs. Those are weights. Little pellets to make it feel like a real baby." Lily pulled her hand back. "No, you're wrong," but Terry kept going. He turned the baby's head slightly and showed her a place at the base of the skull where the vinyl had a tiny seam. "See this?" "I saw these when I was deployed. They use them for training medics sometimes. They're called reborn dolls. They're made to look exactly like real babies." The world tilted sideways. Lily grabbed the baby back from Terry, holding her tight against her chest. "You're lying. She's real. I've been taking care of her all day." "I know this is hard," Terry said gently, "but think about it. Has she eaten anything? Has she cried? Really cried like a baby should?" Lily's mind was racing. She thought about the past 24 hours. The way the baby never opened her eyes. The way the skin felt slightly wrong. The stiffness of the fingers. The fact that the diaper had never needed changing. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She laid the baby down on the sleeping bag and unwrapped all the blankets with shaking hands. In the fading light, she could see it now. Could see what she'd been too desperate to notice before. The perfect unmoving features. The way the chest wasn't actually rising and falling, just had a slight curve to it that created an optical illusion. The vinyl seams carefully hidden, but definitely there. It wasn't real. It had never been real. Lily felt something break inside her chest. All day she'd had a purpose. She'd been a protector, a mother to this abandoned baby. She'd stolen for the first time in her life. She'd made plans. She'd imagined a future where she and this baby would figure things out together. And it was all based on a lie. She started crying, not just tears but big, gasping sobs that shook her whole body, all the hope she'd felt. All the meaning that had filled up the empty spaces in her life for one whole day came pouring out of her in waves of grief. Terry put an awkward hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, kid. I really am. I'm so stupid," Lily choked out between sobs. "I'm so incredibly stupid." "You're not stupid," Terry said firmly. "These dolls are made to fool people. That's the whole point. And you wanted to believe it was real because you have a good heart. There's nothing stupid about that." But Lily couldn't hear him. She felt humiliated, broken. She'd let herself hope for something, and now that hope was just another thing that had been taken from her. After a while, when the crying slowed down, Terry spoke again. "The question is, why would someone leave this here? These dolls cost serious money. People don't just throw them away." Lily wiped her eyes. She hadn't thought about that. In her panic last night, she'd grabbed the bundle and run. But Terry was right. Someone had left this doll behind a medical clinic, wrapped up like a real baby. "Why, I need to go back," Lily said suddenly. "Back to where I found it. Maybe there's something I missed." Terry nodded. "Want me to come with you?" Part of Lily wanted to say no, wanted to just disappear and forget this whole embarrassing mess. But another part of her, the part that had spent all day caring for what she thought was an abandoned baby, needed answers. "Yeah," she said quietly. "Yeah, I think I need help with this." As they walked back toward the clinic, Lily carried the doll carefully. Even knowing it wasn't real, she couldn't bring herself to treat it roughly. It had meant something to her, even if only for a day. And more than that, it had meant something to whoever left it there. Someone had cared enough about this doll to wrap it carefully in blankets, to place it somewhere sheltered from the worst of the rain, to leave it where it might be found. That had to mean something. It had to. The alley behind the clinic was dark now. Terry pulled out a small flashlight from his coat pocket and shined it around. They went to the exact spot where Lily had found the bundle, and Terry started searching carefully through the remaining cardboard and trash. "Here," he said after a minute. He held up a small pink envelope. "This was tucked in the corner. You probably missed it in the dark." Lily took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a note written in shaky handwriting and a business card. She read the note out loud, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Amy. Mommy can't keep pretending anymore. Please forgive me." The business card was for Dr. Rachel Brooks, a psychiatrist at the clinic. Lily looked at Terry. "Someone loved this doll," she said. "Loved it enough to name it. Loved it enough to have to say goodbye to it." Terry nodded slowly. "Yeah. And something tells me there's a whole story here we don't know yet." They stood there in the dark alley looking at the doll in Lily's arms. Suddenly it wasn't just a stupid mistake that made Lily feel like an idiot. It was something more. A piece of someone else's pain, left behind like a message in a bottle. And despite everything, despite the embarrassment and the heartbreak of the past day, Lily felt something new stirring in her chest. She wanted to know the rest of the story. She wanted to know who had loved this doll enough to grieve over it. And somewhere deep down she wanted to return it to the person who had left it behind. Because if there was one thing Lily understood, it was what it felt like to lose something you loved. Lily didn't sleep much that night either, but for different reasons than before. Her mind kept going back to that note. "I'm sorry, Amy. Mommy can't keep pretending anymore." What kind of pain would make someone write those words? What kind of loss would make a person need a doll so badly that saying goodbye to it required a letter? She kept the doll with her, wrapped carefully in the blankets. It seemed wrong to just throw it away now. This wasn't trash. This was someone's Amy, someone's daughter, even if she wasn't real. The next morning, Lily found Terry at his usual spot. He was sipping coffee from a paper cup, steam rising in the cold air. "I can't stop thinking about it," Lily said, sitting down next to him. "About whoever left the doll." "About that note," Terry nodded. "I figured you wouldn't. You've got that look about you. The look of someone who needs to know the ending of the story." "Is that crazy?" Lily asked. "I mean, it's not my business. It's not my problem. I should just forget about it." "Maybe," Terry said. "But you won't." "I know you won't, because you're not the kind of person who can just walk away from something like this." They sat in silence for a minute. Then Terry spoke again. "The business card said the doctor works at that clinic. Maybe we could wait there, see if anyone shows up. People have patterns, you know. If someone left that doll there, maybe they come back. Maybe they can't quite let go. It was a long shot. Lily knew that. But it was the only shot they had, so that's what they did. For 3 days, they took turns watching the clinic. They tried not to be obvious about it, just sitting across the street on a bench looking like two homeless people trying to stay warm, which technically they were. On the 3rd day around noon, Lily noticed a car pull into the clinic parking lot and just sit there. It was a blue sedan, a few years old, with a dent in the front bumper. The driver didn't get out, just sat behind the wheel staring at the building. "Terry," Lily whispered, nudging him. "That car. It's been sitting there for 10 minutes. They watched. After another 5 minutes, the driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. She was maybe in her early 30s with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a heavy coat, and even from across the street, Lily could see how tired she looked. Like she hadn't slept in days. In weeks, maybe. The woman didn't go into the clinic. Instead, she walked around to the back of the building, toward the alley. "That's her," Terry said quietly. "That's got to be her." They waited a few minutes, then followed. When they turned the corner into the alley, they saw the woman standing exactly where Lily had found the doll. She was just standing there, staring at the ground, her arms wrapped around herself. Her shoulders were shaking, she was crying. Quiet, painful crying that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. Lily didn't know what to do. Part of her wanted to just leave the woman alone with her grief. But she was holding the doll in her arms, wrapped in the blankets, and something told her this was important. This woman needed to know what had happened to Amy. She took a step forward. The woman must have heard because she spun around, her eyes wide and frightened. "I'm sorry," Lily said quickly, holding up one hand. "I'm not trying to scare you. I found something here a few days ago. Something I think belongs to you." The woman's eyes went to the bundle in Lily's arms. Her face went white. That's Amy," Lily finished softly. "Her name is Amy, right?" The woman's legs seemed to give out. She leaned back against the brick wall, tears streaming down her face. "You found her." "Oh God, you found her." Terry stepped forward slowly, his hands visible, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. "We're not here to judge you, ma'am. We just wanted to return her to you." The woman shook her head frantically. No, I can't. I left her here on purpose. I had to let her go. My therapist said, Dr. Brooks said I needed to stop, that it wasn't healthy anymore." Lily moved closer, holding out the doll. "Can you tell us what happened, please?" The woman looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. She took in Lily's worn clothes, her tired face, the backpack that held everything Lily owned. "You're homeless," she said, and it wasn't a question. Lily nodded. "Yeah, I found Amy the night she was left here. For a whole day I thought she was real. I tried to take care of her, feed her, keep her warm." Her voice cracked. "I felt like an idiot when I found out she wasn't real. But then I read your note and I realized you loved her, really loved her. And that made me want to find you." The woman stared at Lily for a long moment. Then more tears came, but different this time. "You tried to take care of her," she whispered. "Even though you don't have anything, you tried to save her." "She was a baby," Lily said simply. "At least I thought she was. What else was I supposed to do?" The woman slid down the wall until she was sitting on the cold pavement of the alley. "My name is Nicole," she said. "And 3 years ago I had a real daughter. A real Amy. She was perfect, beautiful. She had these little hands that would grab onto my finger, and these big blue eyes that looked at me like I was her whole world." Lily sat down next to her, still holding the doll. Terry stayed standing, keeping watch, giving them space but staying close enough to help if needed. "Amy died when she was 2 months old," Nicole continued, her voice hollow. "SIDS, they said. Sudden infant death syndrome. I put her down for a nap, and when I went to check on her, she was just gone. No warning, no chance to say goodbye. 1 minute she was there, and the next minute my whole world ended." Lily felt tears stinging her own eyes. She didn't say anything. What could you say to something like that? "My husband couldn't handle it," Nicole went on. "We fell apart. Got divorced within a year. I fell apart too in my own way. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Couldn't function. I kept going into her nursery, expecting to see her there, expecting to hear her cry. The silence was killing me." She reached out and touched the doll's face with one finger. "Dr. Brooks suggested I try therapy. And as part of that, she told me about these dolls. Reborn dolls. She said some people found them helpful for grief, a way to work through the loss. So I got one made to look exactly like Amy did. Did it help? Lily asked quietly. Nicole laughed, but it was a bitter sound. At first I thought it did. I could hold her again, take care of her, dress her. For a little while I could pretend, but after a year Dr. Brooks started worrying. She said I was using the doll to avoid my grief, not process it, that I needed to let go, to accept that Amy was gone. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. We've been working on it for months, and last week I finally agreed. I would say goodbye to the doll. I would leave it somewhere and not go back for it. It was supposed to be a symbolic thing, a way of moving forward. But you came back, Terry observed gently. I came back, Nicole admitted. 3 times now. I can't help it. I stand here and I think about her lying in this alley, and it feels like I'm abandoning Amy all over again. Leaving her in the cold, even though I know it's not real. Even though I know it's just a doll. Lily understood. God, she understood more than Nicole probably realized. How many times had Lily gone back to places from her past, even though she knew there was nothing there for her? Her childhood home before it had been sold. The playground where her mom used to push her on the swings. Back before everything fell apart. Sometimes you couldn't help but go back to the places where you'd lost things. What if, Lily said slowly, what if you didn't have to choose between keeping her and saying goodbye? What if there was a middle path? Nicole looked at her with red, swollen eyes. What do you mean? Lily held up the doll, looking at its peaceful, sleeping face. You can't keep pretending she's real. That's not healthy and you know it. But you also can't just throw away something that represents your daughter. So what if you kept the doll but changed what it means to you? I don't understand, Nicole said. Put her somewhere in your home, Lily explained. Not in a crib. Not dressed up like a real baby, just somewhere you can see her. Like a photo album or a memory box. Not something you interact with every day, but something that reminds you that Amy was real, that she existed, that she mattered. Terry nodded slowly. The kid's got a point. Grief isn't something you just get rid of. You've got to learn to carry it differently. Nicole stared at the doll for a long time. Dr. Brooks wanted me to get rid of it completely. She said keeping it at all was unhealthy. Maybe it was unhealthy the way you were doing it before, Lily said. But that doesn't mean you have to erase Amy completely. You're her mom. You get to decide how to remember her. Something shifted in Nicole's face. It was subtle, but Lily saw it. A little bit of the tension releasing. A little bit of permission to grieve the way she needed to. Not the way someone else told her she should. Can I hold her? Nicole asked quietly. Lily carefully placed the doll in Nicole's arms. Nicole held it, her like she was precious. Like she was made of glass. She bent her head and pressed a kiss to the doll's forehead. I miss you so much, Nicole whispered. Every single day. You were only here for 2 months, but you changed everything. You made me a mom. And I'll always be your mom, even if you're not here anymore. They sat there in the alley, 3 people carrying different kinds of loss. A mother grieving her child. A veteran who'd lost his way home. A teenage girl who'd never had a home to lose. And a doll that represented all the ways love could hurt. After a long time, Nicole looked up at Lily. Thank you, she said. For taking care of her. For bringing her back to me. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Lily said simply. She mattered to you. That means she matters. Nicole carefully stood up, still holding the doll. Then she seemed to really look at Lily for the first time. At her thin frame, her worn clothes, the backpack with everything she owned. Where are you sleeping tonight? Nicole asked. Lily shrugged. I've got a spot. It's not great, but it's okay. No, Nicole said firmly. It's not okay. You're a kid. You should have a safe place to sleep. A bed, food, all the basic things. Well, yeah, Lily said, trying to smile. That would be nice. But that's not how life worked out for me. Nicole was quiet for a minute, thinking. Then she seemed to make a decision. I can't fix everything. I know that. But I can help. I work for a small company doing administrative stuff. We're not hiring officially, but I could use someone to help me with filing and data entry. It doesn't pay much, but it's something. And I know some resources, places that can help with housing. Lily's heart started beating faster. You'd do that for me? You don't even know me. You found my daughter when you thought she was abandoned and you tried to save her, Nicole said. Even though you had nothing. Even though helping her would have made your life harder. That tells me everything I need to know about you. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to call Dr. Brooks right now. She has connections with social services. We're going to figure this out. Lily felt tears starting again, but these were different. These were tears of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The real kind. Not the desperate kind that came from finding a doll and pretending it was a baby. I don't know what to say, Lily whispered. You don't have to say anything, Nicole said. She shifted the doll to one arm and put her other arm around Lily's shoulders. Sometimes we help each other. That's all. Sometimes we find exactly what we need in the last place we'd expect to look. Terry cleared his throat. I'll leave you two to talk. Kid, you know where to find me if you need anything. But Nicole turned to him. Wait, you helped too. You helped her understand what the doll was. You came with her to find me. What's your name? Terry, he said. Terry, I don't know your situation, but if you need help too, we can figure something out. Dr. Brooks works with veterans. There are programs. Terry looked surprised. Then he gave a small smile. I might take you up on that, ma'am. I just might. As they walked out of the alley together, Nicole carrying the doll that looked like her lost daughter and Lily carrying a backpack that held everything she owned, something had changed. The doll wasn't a replacement for a real baby anymore. And Lily wasn't just a homeless girl trying to survive. They were people helping each other carry their grief, finding unexpected connections in places that hurt, and sometimes that was enough to start healing. The first week was the hardest. Nicole didn't just wave a magic wand and fix Lily's life, no matter how much she might have wanted to. Real help wasn't like that. It was messy and complicated, full of paperwork and waiting and setbacks. Dr. Brooks, the psychiatrist whose business card had been in that envelope, turned out to be exactly the kind of person Lily had learned not to trust. The kind who asked too many questions and looked at you with concerned eyes like you were a problem to be solved. But Nicole vouched for her, and Lily was trying to learn that not every adult was out to hurt her. The first meeting in Dr. Brooks's office was uncomfortable. Lily sat on a leather couch that was too nice in a room that was too clean, answering questions she didn't want to answer. Why did you leave your last foster home? Dr. Brooks asked, her voice gentle but persistent. Lily stared at the floor. Reasons. Lily, I know trust is hard, especially when the adults in your life have let you down. But if I'm going to help you, I need to understand your situation. The foster dad, Lily finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. He kept coming into my room at night. Nobody believed me when I tried to tell them. Dr. Brooks's face tightened. She made a note on her pad. That should have been reported immediately. That's a failure of the system, and I'm sorry that happened to you. Sorry, everyone was always sorry, but sorry didn't change anything. Sorry didn't give her back the years of bouncing between homes, between people who saw her as a paycheck or a burden or worse. Still, Dr. Brooks was true to her word. She made calls. She knew people. Within 3 days, she'd found Lily a spot in a transitional living program for young adults. It wasn't perfect. It was a shared apartment with 3 other girls, all of them aging out of foster care or escaping bad situations. But it had a bed with clean sheets, a door that locked, a kitchen with food in it. Lily stood in the doorway of her new room, hardly believing it was real. The room was small, barely big enough for a twin bed, a dresser, and a tiny desk. But it was hers. Nobody could come into this room without her permission. She sat on the bed and cried. Just cried and cried until there were no tears left. Nicole helped her get ready for the job. They went to a thrift store together, and Nicole bought her some clothes that were appropriate for an office. Simple pants and shirts, nothing fancy, but clean and professional looking. She also got Lily a backpack that didn't have duct tape holding it together. You don't have to do all this, Lily kept saying. You've already done so much. I want to, Nicole said simply. Besides, helping you helps me. It gives me something positive to focus on, something good that came from all that pain. The job itself was exactly what Nicole had described. Filing, data entry, answering phones sometimes, organizing paperwork. It wasn't exciting, but it was stable. It paid $11 an hour, which felt like a fortune to someone who'd been scraping by on nothing. Lily's co-workers were nice enough, though they asked too many questions at first. Where did she go to school? Where did she live before this? Did she have family in the area? Lily learned to give vague answers that weren't quite lies but didn't reveal too much. Eventually, they stopped pushing. Nicole, though, never pushed. She was there if Lily wanted to talk, but she didn't pry. She'd bring extra lunch sometimes and leave it on Lily's desk with a note. She'd send funny memes that made Lily smile. Small things that said, "I'm thinking of you," without demanding anything in return. But even with all the help, even with the apartment and the job and the fresh start, Lily struggled. Some nights she couldn't sleep in the bed. It felt too soft, too exposed. She'd end up on the floor with a blanket, her back against the wall, because that's what felt safe. That's what felt normal. The roommates in the apartment were dealing with their own stuff. One girl, Victoria, would scream in her sleep sometimes. Another, Casey, stole food from the shared fridge, even though everyone had their own groceries. The third girl, Bree, barely spoke at all, just stayed in her room with the door closed. They were all broken in different ways, all trying to figure out how to be normal when they'd never learned what normal looked like. 2 weeks into the job, Lily made a mistake. She filed a whole stack of important papers in the wrong cabinet. It took hours to find them all, and her supervisor wasn't happy about it. Lily felt the familiar panic rising in her chest. This was it. They'd fire her. They'd realize she was useless and stupid and not worth the trouble. But Nicole just pulled her aside and said, "Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. We'll fix it and move on. You're not mad?" Lily asked, surprised. "Mad? No, you're learning. Learning means making mistakes sometimes." Nicole paused. "Is this the first time someone said that to you?" Lily thought about all her foster homes, all the adults who'd gotten angry when she messed up, who'd told her she was trouble, who'd made her feel like she had to be perfect just to deserve basic kindness. "Yeah," she said quietly, "I guess it is." 3 weeks in, Lily went back to visit Terry. She found him at his usual spot near the library, and his face lit up when he saw her. "Look at you," he said, grinning. "You look good, kid. Healthy." Lily sat down next to him, and it felt strange. She wasn't one of them anymore. She had a home now, a job, but she didn't quite fit in the normal world either. She was somewhere in between, floating. "How are you doing?" she asked him. Terry shrugged. "Same as always. But I've been thinking about what that lady said. About the veteran programs. Might be worth looking into." "You should," Lily said. "I mean, it's scary. Trusting people to help you. But sometimes they actually do." They sat together for a while, watching people walk by. Then Terry spoke again. "You did a good thing, kid. Finding that doll. Figuring out who it belonged to. Some people would have just walked away." "I couldn't," Lily said. "When I thought it was a real baby, I felt like I had a purpose, you know? Like I mattered, like I could save someone." She laughed sadly. "Turns out trying to save that baby kind of saved me instead." Terry nodded. "Life's funny that way. We help each other in unexpected ways." Lily reached into her bag and pulled out a $20 bill. "Take this. Get yourself a hot meal tonight." "Kid, you don't have to." "I want to," Lily interrupted. "You helped me when you didn't have to. Let me pay it forward." As she walked away from the library, heading back to her apartment, Lily thought about how strange life was. A month ago, she'd been sleeping in an abandoned warehouse, stealing food to survive. She'd been invisible nobody. And then she'd found a doll in an alley, a piece of someone else's grief. And that had somehow led to this. To an apartment, a job, a chance. But the hard part, the part nobody talked about, was that having chances meant you could lose them. It meant you had something to be afraid of losing. When you had nothing, you couldn't fall any further. But now she had to wake up every morning and try not to mess this up. Try to be the person everyone seemed to think she could be. One night, about a month in, Nicole invited Lily over for dinner. It was the first time Lily had been to her house. It was a small place, neat and tidy, with photos on the walls and plants in the windows. Normal. So incredibly normal it almost hurt. Over spaghetti that Nicole had cooked, they talked about small things. Work. The weather. A funny thing that had happened at the office. And then Nicole said, "I want to show you something." She led Lily to a shelf in the living room. There, among family photos and books, sat the doll. Amy. She was dressed simply in a white dress, and she was positioned sitting up like a decoration. Not hidden away, not treated like a real baby, just there. "I see her every day," Nicole said. "She reminds me that Amy was real, that she existed, that I was her mother, even if only for a little while. But she doesn't consume me anymore. She's a memory now, a beautiful, painful memory, Lily reached out and touched the doll's hand. She remembered the night she'd found it, the way her heart had raced, the hope that had filled her chest, the crushing disappointment when she learned the truth. "Do you think I'm crazy?" Nicole asked quietly. "For keeping her?" "No," Lily said. "I think you're brave. Grief doesn't have a right way or a wrong way. You're just figuring out how to carry it." Nicole smiled, and there were tears in her eyes, but they were good tears. "You're wise for 19, you know that?" "I've had to grow up fast," Lily said with a shrug. They sat down on the couch, and Nicole pulled out a photo album. "I want to show you the real Amy, if that's okay." For the next hour, Nicole shared stories. About her pregnancy. About the birth. About those 2 short months when Amy had been alive. The way she'd smiled in her sleep. The way she'd curl her tiny fingers around Nicole's thumb. The way she'd smelled, that perfect baby smell. And Lily listened. She listened to a mother talk about the daughter she'd lost, and she felt honored to hold this grief with her, even though it wasn't her own. When it was time to leave, Nicole hugged her. A real hug, tight and meaningful. "Thank you," Nicole said, "for everything. For caring. For understanding." "Thank you for giving me a chance," Lily replied. Walking back to her apartment that night, Lily thought about how strange and complicated healing was. She wasn't fixed. She still had nightmares about her foster homes. She still struggled to trust people. She still felt like an outsider in her own life. But she was trying. She was showing up. She was doing the hard work of moving forward. And maybe that's all any of them could do. Nicole with her grief. Terry with his past. Lily with her trauma. Maybe healing wasn't about erasing the pain or pretending it never happened. Maybe it was about learning to carry it differently, about finding people who could help carry it with you. That night, for the first time since she'd moved into the apartment, Lily slept in the bed instead of on the floor. She still woke up a few times, confused about where she was. But each time she reminded herself, "You're safe. You're home. You're okay." And slowly, over time, she started to believe it. 6 months passed. 6 months that felt like both forever and no time at all. Lily was still at the apartment, still working the job. She'd gotten a small raise, which made her feel ridiculously proud. She'd also started taking a class at the community college. Just one class. Introduction to business, because that's all she could handle while working full-time. But it was something. A step toward a future that looked different from her past. The roommate situation had gotten better too. She and Victoria had become actual friends, staying up late sometimes talking about their messed up childhoods and laughing about things that probably weren't funny but somehow were when you shared them with someone who understood. Casey had gotten into a program for her stealing problem. Bree still didn't talk much, but she'd started leaving little notes for everyone. "Hope you have a good day. You look nice." Small kindnesses in a world that hadn't given them much kindness. Nicole had become more than just a boss. She was something like a mentor. Something like a friend, something like the mother figure Lily had never really had. They got coffee every Sunday morning at a little cafe downtown, and they talk about everything and nothing. One Sunday, 6 months after that night in the alley, Nicole brought something with her to coffee. A photo, old and faded, in a simple frame. "I want you to have this," Nicole said, sliding it across the table. Lily looked at the photo. It was of a baby, beautiful and perfect, with big blue eyes and a little smile. "The real Amy." "I can't take this," Lily said immediately. "This is your daughter. This is precious." "I have copies," Nicole said. "Lots of them. But I wanted you to have one, because you were the first person who tried to save her. Even if she wasn't real, you have a good heart, Lily. And I want you to remember that about yourself on days when you forget." Lily felt tears burning in her eyes. She'd cried more in the past 6 months than she had in years before that. It was like finding safety had finally given her permission to feel all the things she'd been pushing down. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their coffee. Then Nicole spoke again. "I've been thinking about something. About that night. About you finding the doll and thinking it was a real baby." "I felt so stupid," Lily said. "For a long time I felt like an idiot for not realizing sooner." "But that's not the important part," Nicole said. "The important part is what you did when you thought it was real. You didn't look for someone else to help. You didn't call the police or drop the baby at a hospital and walk away. You took her home. You tried to figure out how to take care of her, even though you barely had enough to take care of yourself. What else was I supposed to do?" Lily asked. Exactly, Nicole said. What else were you supposed to do? That's who you are. That's your character. When you see someone or something that needs help, you help, even when it costs you, even when it's hard. Lily looked down at her coffee. I don't feel like a good person most of the time. I feel like I'm just trying not to mess up. That's what being a good person is, Nicole said gently. It's not about being perfect. It's about trying. It's about showing up. It's about caring when it would be easier not to. Later that week, Lily got a phone call that changed things again. It was from a social worker she'd met with a few months back, someone Dr. Brooks had connected her with. I wanted to let you know, the social worker said. We've been investigating your reports about your last foster home. The one where you said the foster father was inappropriate. Lily's stomach dropped. She'd given her statement months ago, but she hadn't heard anything since. She'd assumed, like always, that nothing would come of it, that nobody believed her. We found other complaints, the social worker continued, from other girls who'd been placed there. Your testimony helped us see a pattern. The foster father has been charged and he won't be taking in any more children. Lily couldn't speak for a moment. When she finally found her voice, it came out small and broken. So you believe me? People actually believe me. Yes, the social worker said firmly. We believe you. What happened to you was wrong, and I'm sorry it took so long for anyone to listen. After she hung up, Lily sat on her bed in her little room and cried. But these weren't sad tears. They were complicated tears. Relief that someone finally believed her. Anger that it had taken so long. Grief for all the time she'd spent thinking she was the problem. She wanted to tell someone, so she called Nicole. That's huge, Nicole said when Lily explained. That's so huge. How are you feeling? I don't know, Lily admitted, like something heavy just lifted off my shoulders, but also angry. If someone had believed me the first time, I wouldn't have had to run away. I wouldn't have been homeless. My whole life would have been different. You're allowed to be angry, Nicole said. You're allowed to feel all of it. The relief and the anger and everything in between. That night, Lily did something she hadn't done in a long time. She wrote. Just thoughts on paper, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. She wrote about the foster homes, about living on the streets, about finding the doll, about meeting Nicole and Terry and how they'd helped her, about how weird it was to have a future now when for so long she'd just been trying to survive each day. She wrote until her hand cramped, and when she finally stopped, she felt lighter somehow. Like she'd put some of the weight down on paper where it couldn't sit so heavy in her chest anymore. The next Sunday, Lily brought something to coffee with Nicole. It was the doll, Amy. Nicole had given it back to Lily a few months ago, saying she didn't need it anymore, that she'd finally let go. I've been thinking, Lily said, setting the doll carefully on the table between them, about what we should do with her. Nicole reached out and touched the doll's face gently. What did you have in mind? There are support groups, Lily said, for parents who've lost babies. Dr. Brooks told me about them. What if we donated Amy to one of those groups? What if she could help other people the way she helped both of us? Nicole was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was the most genuine smile Lily had seen on her face. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. They contacted one of the support groups together. The group leader, a kind woman who'd lost twins years ago, was touched by the offer. We use dolls sometimes in our therapy sessions, she explained, for parents who need to practice letting go, or for parents who need something to hold while they process their grief. This would be a beautiful gift.